Julie, who's calling in from Idaho. Julie, what is going on?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Julie.
Welcome to Truth Wanted.
Well, I would like to talk about a little story that happened in my life way back when I lived in Alaska. We were homesteading a piece of property. It was far out of Anchorage, up the Yukon River. And after about 2 weeks of travel, we stopped at a little Eskimo village and stayed in a cabin. And in this cabin, I had the weirdest experience in my life that I never forgot.
Ooh.
And I was only about 8 or 9 years old. Okay, I was somewhere in there. I'm thinking back on it now because we created a gold mine after that. And this was way before the gold mine.
Okay.
And anyway, I loved this little bed in the cabin. I was so comfortable. But somewhere in the night, I woke up and I was in the bed in our home base in Anchorage. And I could feel the blankets and I could see all my trinkets on the counter. And I could just see everything so clearly, like, wow, I'm back at home. How is this? And
so you had an astral projection experience.
Yes, that's what I think.
Yeah, okay.
And when I recognized that I wasn't supposed to be there, I just snapped back to the place in the village, the other place in the Yukon River.
Mm-hmm.
And I really woke up.
So you did wake up after that.
Yes, I did. I woke right up and I'm like, wow, I was just at home. And
so
I'm baffled by it.
Was there anybody else that was awake? Was this still in the middle of the night?
Yeah, it was a nice warm cabin. It was just me and my dad.
Okay.
We were the ones going to homestead the property.
So was your dad asleep, or did he witness you, or was he kind of in the room with you, looking at you when it happened?
No, he's not a witness.
Okay, so based on what you're telling me, and obviously it sounds like I think I don't know how you feel about it so far. You haven't given about how true you believe this experience to be, as far as whether or not this is supernatural, whether or not. But to me, it sounds like if you're in a cabin and you remember at least going to sleep beforehand, it kind of just sounds like a crazy dream to me. I mean, it'd be one thing if this happened in the middle of the day and you were totally awake, and you were doing some other activity. But if you were lying in bed, who's not to say that this wasn't just like a crazy dream?
Yeah, that's certainly a good point, except it was just too real. And I don't want to bring something up for us on this call, but that's the only thing I want to talk about this call. There is something else supernatural that happened later on, but I don't want to talk about that right now.
Okay, well let's talk about this thing. So what leads you to believe? I'd be interested in knowing why you attribute this experience to the supernatural. I know you said that because it felt like really real. Is that like your biggest reason, or is there another reason why you think that?
That's the biggest reason, because I could feel the blankets when I sat up in bed, and I thought to myself, I shouldn't be here. Mm-hmm. And I could see all my blankets, and I knew I could just jump off the bed, but then I knew I wasn't supposed to be there. So
okay. Have you ever had a dream before this or after this time where you thought it was also like super real? And if so, how do you differentiate those experiences with this one? Is it just the thought of I shouldn't be here, or is there something else?
All right, so this led me into researching astral projection, and I literally spent years trying to deliberately do the same thing that I experienced, and it never worked out.
Okay. Yeah. So to be fair, though, I would also say you weren't trying to have this experience either, right? It kind of seems like it just happened on accident, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So if you're trying to have these astral projection experiences, if you're looking at, the research on this from people who've said they've done it before, but you've never been able to do it, but you were able to do it this one time, what's the explanation there? Why were the circumstances for this different from those other times?
That's what I would like to know. Truth wanted.
Truth wanted, baby. That's what's up. So let me give my take just real quick, because I had an experience very similar to yours when I was a kid, and actually I was also in a cabin when this happened. I was at this place, and it was a state park somewhere. I was traveling with my family, and there was a really bad storm that night. I remember that happening, and I remember waking up and thinking, I don't know where I'm at. I don't know what's going on. And I realized I could not move at all. And it was very, very scary. And I didn't know what the heck was going on. I stayed up for another hour or so. At least it felt like it, but I couldn't move. Eventually, I must have passed out, because the next thing I remember is waking up in my bed and everything being light. And I didn't know what the heck was going on. I didn't know if this place had controlled me by a demon or something. I never really had too hard of a demon belief, but I didn't know what it was. And then I eventually figured out about this thing called sleep paralysis. And when I looked up the symptoms of that, I was like, whoa, every single thing in this criteria totally matches up with my experience. Now, Julie, I have no idea if your experience was sleep paralysis, or maybe you ate something funny the night before or whatever, but would you accept that if someone were to give you a criteria that matched your experiences to an alternative explanation besides the supernatural, would that be convincing to you, or would you need something else?
Well, I have a hard time accepting supernatural because I look for that and it just isn't really there. So, options are great.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm asking.
Yeah. In my opinion, Julie, I think what you experience, at least by what you told me, could be explained through natural processes. There's nothing particular in your story that speaks out to me, in circumstances being so unusual that the supernatural is the most likely explanation. You're in a place you're not familiar with, you're in a bed, you're sleeping at night, and you remember an experience of waking up. And to me, that's kind of the telltale signs of that was a dream, or that was sleep paralysis, or something that other humans have experienced before, that we could appeal to the natural. So that would be my take on it. Oz, what do you think about this conversation?
Given the fact that it was, I fell asleep here, and I had this experience, where I felt blankets and saw the trinkets or whatever. But then when I woke up, I'm still in the same place. Most would conclude that that's a dream. You're in a dream state. At that point. And I'll say as a boy, I grew up. My bedroom was kind of my escape growing up. Kind of a tumultuous household, and I had repeated like multiple times the same nightmare. And I can't even tell you how many times I had it, where as I was falling asleep, I'd feel like I heard steps in the grass outside of my bedroom. And then in the dream, I experienced somebody coming and taking me out the window by the foot of my bed. And I'd wake up in the morning at the foot of my bed. Now you could say, well, was I taken out of the bedroom? No, I was never taken out of the bedroom. The window was still locked. Like nobody came through the window, but for whatever reason, my brain and the chemicals in my brain, that activity caused that dream. So, again, was I really taken? No, it's just, circumstance, brain activity, whatever, I don't analyze brains, but I didn't leave the room, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. It's so interesting. This thing that we do a third of our lives, like sleeping, is something that we don't know a whole lot about. I mean, we've only recently scratched the surface of what exactly is happening when we sleep. There was an idea that like we slept to rest and to like regain energy, even though that's not actually what's happening there in one way. But not to get too technical, but it's like we go through these different states in our brains and stuff, and obviously we have these dreams, and it's no wonder how people could attribute to the supernatural with these things. Some of it's so crazy, and some of it relates to our daily experiences. So we think that we're prophesizing when really it's like, oh no, I saw a bus in my dream because I took the bus today, and that's why. And we can kind of figure out, at least some rationale to it. But until we really get a good idea, I think there's always going to be kind of these weird experiences that we've had. But I can't make that jump to the supernatural. It doesn't really work with my understanding of the world. It doesn't seem like the best explanation for the things that we're seeing, especially when we can, appeal to what we already know. But I don't know. Does this change your mind at all on anything, Julie? What do you think about us saying all this? Julie, are you still there? Oh man. Okay. Not sure what's up with. Oh, there she is. Hey.
Awesome. I thought I lost you.
Yeah. So what do you think? What do you think of me and Oz's take? Do you agree? Do you disagree?
You know what? I do agree. The dream state is such a fascinating thing. And, right. There's so many things that happen while you're asleep. It's totally possible that, as a kid, I could have had things just more realistic in one dream than another.
Yeah, our audio producer, audio engineer, just messaged me to ask you: did you have a CO2 detector in the cabin?
Well, we were right on the river. Oh my goodness! And I wanted to bring this up because you're talking about the healthy way of eating, and I got to say, it took us 2 weeks to get to the cabin that I'm talking about, and along the way, what we ate was salmon, trout, cranberries, and blueberries. Oh, and gooseberries. Gooseberries are popular up there too.
That's cool.
Right.
I never been to Alaska. Yeah, I've never been there. I've always wanted to go. I used to be, not as much anymore. I was quite the backpacker myself. I'm actually an Eagle Scout. I did a lot of that stuff growing up. And since I lived in Austin, there's some places to hike around here, but it's not, it's still a city for the most part. But yeah, I whenever this pandemic sort of eases out, I'd like to try and travel, do more of that stuff. But thanks for calling in, Julie. We got some other callers we want to get to. I hope we kind of answered your questions about your experience. If you ever want to talk about that other thing you were calling about, I'd be interested to hear more. But yeah, hopefully we solve some issues for you there. So thanks for calling in. I don't know, Oz, what'd you think about that call?
Dreams are fascinating to me. I'm actually going to do a video with a guy here, I think in a couple of weeks, and talk about dream states, because I did have a lot of those repeated dreams, had night terrors. So that's the interesting thing to me, but I don't find a way to connect brain activity to the supernatural. I don't have any good reason to believe that.
Yeah, I don't either. My audio engineer is sending me some more stuff now. I guess he was trying to make a point when he was making that comment. He sent me an article saying, "Is that paradise beckoning or just CO in your blood?" from newscientist.com. And he has a quote for me. It says, "Studies have linked high levels of CO2 to visual hallucinations." Chimeric Coos notes. I think I'm saying that name right. Kayamanik? I don't know. A lot of names I'm not getting right tonight. People at high altitudes where blood CO2 spikes sometimes have hallucinations, such as bright lights that are similar to near-death experiences. And yeah, like if they're out in the wilderness and they're having this cabin trip, that could be an explanation. I was out at a state park somewhere, so maybe that's what it was for me. I know I've had weird dreams while camping and stuff too. And you always hear weird stories about like aliens and Bigfoot and stuff on these camping trips, right? So yeah, maybe there's something to that as an explanation. But yeah, supernatural, don't know. Don't know if it was demons or angels or whatever. That'd be kind of crazy. I think I'd have to see a bit more in order to get there. But let's go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
With all the studies and research that we have, on sleep and the brain at this point, we at least have a little bit, of a suggestion that supernatural is involved. I would think.
Yeah. I mean, like I obviously, as skeptics, we don't take too much thought into that kind of stuff now. But I mean, I can see why people like would naturally go there because you have this crazy experience that's totally different from your day to day. You already have these beliefs that tell you about things that are beyond us, and it just makes sense to kind of tie it together. And I honestly think a big portion of people's beliefs come from those individual experiences, which is why it's really good to ask people why they believe. They may not have some sort of argument that you can debunk. It might just be a story that they have that convinced them of something, and maybe you can give alternative explanations, maybe asking them why they think that's the best one. But that's why it's important to figure out exactly where people are coming from when you're talking about this stuff, because otherwise dismissing them offhand, that's people don't like that. It's kind of rude.